For many people, the PlayStation 2 is the greatest console ever made. It was a massive leap in technology and graphics from the 5th generation, and it introduced us to iconic characters like Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper and Ratchet & Clank. With over 160 million units sold, it's still the best-selling console of all time, even here in 2025. No matter what type of gamer you are, whether you like racers, platformers, fighters, JRPGs, the PlayStation 2 has an amazing library for you. But one of the best genres to play and collect for on the PlayStation 2 is no doubt survival horror games. There is an absolute goldmine of survival horror games on the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 2 era was a renaissance for horror games. We saw countless titles, big franchises, hidden gems, and even games that are still stranded on the PlayStation 2 today with no ports or remasters. If you loved being scared, this was the console to buy. And in this video, I'm going to go through my entire PlayStation 2 survival horror collection. I'll go through all the rare games, the hidden gems, and everything in between, and I'll go through why the PlayStation 2 is without doubt the best console you can collect for if you enjoy survival horror games. This year, I've been putting a lot of focus on my PlayStation 2 collection, especially survival horror games, and right now I'm really happy with the current state of my PlayStation 2 collection. We've added some big heavy hitters to that collection, especially survival horror games, so I can't wait to go through all of them with you guys today. But before we dive in, I want to hear from you guys. Do you collect for the PlayStation 2? Do you love survival horror games on the PlayStation 2? Let me know some of your favourites, sound off in the comments down below, and if you love video game hunts, CX adventures, and everything around video game collecting, smash the like button and subscribe to the Collector's Quest channel. And of course, we've got to start with the biggest survival horror franchise of all time, Resident Evil. And we were treated to 6 games in total on the PlayStation 2 from this amazing franchise. And it all kicked off with Resident Evil Code Veronica X, which I only recently found out started off as a Dreamcast exclusive. The PlayStation 2 version was actually the enhanced version released in 2001, and it even got a GameCube port. My history with Resident Evil is all over the shop, right? I've played 0, 1, 4, 5, 6, I've watched some of the terrible movies, but I do really enjoy the franchise, so I don't know how Code Veronica fits into the overall timeline or the overall lore of Resident Evil, but I've heard nothing but great things about this one. And a lot of hardcore Resident Evil fans consider Code Veronica to be the true Resident Evil 3 game that we never got. A really intriguing backstory to this one. Then we have Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica, which I still need in my collection. It's actually the most expensive Resident Evil game on the PlayStation 2 at around £70. And it's actually a light gun game, and while it's not held in the highest regard by many Resident Evil fans, as a collector, as someone who loves Resident Evil, I need that one in my collection ASAP. And speaking of light gun games, I mentioned this on a previous video, but we've actually got Resident Evil Dead Aim, which is another light gun game. You play from a third person camera perspective, but then when you aim, it goes into the light gun mode. So again, a really intriguing game. This one is fairly affordable at around £25, so definitely check it out if you like your light gun games. But the weirdness doesn't end there. We've got the Outbreak games, Outbreak 1 and Outbreak Fold 2, and these games are really ahead of their time. They let you play through different scenarios in Raccoon City at the start of the Outbreak, and they even had online co-op, which was crazy for a PlayStation 2 game. And the coolest part, you can still actually play online in these games today if you use fan servers and mods on the PC. I don't know much about the Outbreak games, so someone let me know down below, are they worth checking out? I know with Resident Evil 9 coming out, I know there's quite a few people recommending going back to the Outbreak Fold 2 game. I want to say I haven't looked too deeply into the lore for Resident Evil 9, but yeah, just really intriguing, and it goes to show that Capcom was massively experimenting with the Resident Evil series, especially on the PlayStation 2. But of course, I've saved the best for last, Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is without doubt my favourite game in the entire series. I don't know, it just really captured the horror vibes, the survival horror nature, the limited inventory, but it also had the campiness, the cheesiness, you know, Leon Roundhouse kicking everyone, the where's everyone gone bingo, and the merchant, what are you buying, stranger? It was just a great game. I really loved it. I remember playing it back in the day on the Wii, back in 2008 I want to say, but yeah, I really loved Resident Evil 4. And again, it didn't even start off as a PlayStation 2 game, it actually launched as a GameCube exclusive, and when it finally came to the PlayStation 2, it was huge, man. The PlayStation 2 got a lot of love from Resident Evil. If you love being scared, you need to check out Resident Evil on the PlayStation 2. I highly recommend 4 from what I've heard of. Code Veronica is another great one. And if you love the weird, the wonderful, then check out the Outbreak games, the light gun games. Yeah, Resident Evil is amazing, man. But Capcom didn't just give us Resident Evil on the PlayStation 2. They dropped some of the strangest and most unique horror games ever on the PlayStation 2. Let's start with Clock Tower 3. This one is all about being chased by unstoppable stalkers. You don't fight, you run and hide, which creates insane tension. Clock Tower 3 goes for around £70. I paid about £45–50 about 18 months ago, so definitely jump on it sooner rather than later if you want to check out Clock Tower 3. I believe this series started on the SNES and the PlayStation 1, but Clock Tower 1 on the PlayStation 1, complete in box with a manual, goes for something silly like £400. So yeah, £70 on the PlayStation 2 is way cheaper than £400 for the PlayStation 1 version, man. But if you don't fancy spending £400 on the first game, there is Clock Tower Rewind, which is a re-release of the first one available on modern systems, so check it out if you're interested. Then we got Haunting Ground, where you play as Fiona with your dog Huey, and again, no real combat, it's just pure survival. Haunting Grounds is a really interesting game. It's basically a spiritual successor to the Clock Tower series, and again, when I played it, I really enjoyed it. It's just one of those games where you feel so vulnerable playing as Fiona. It's very much like Outlast, Amnesia, where you can't really do much. You just got to run, hide, and just pray that the person just walks past, and then you can continue on with your adventure. This game back in 2005 did get dragged a bit due to its overly sexual themes and some people having issues with the sexual objectification of Fiona. I don't really want to get involved with all that, but what I can say, this game is a must-own in my opinion if you love survival horror and if you love collecting for the PlayStation 2. But again, like a lot of games on this list, it is fairly pricey at £140, so yeah, probably a game you're gonna have to save up for or try and find some of those sweet vouchers. But like I said, I love this game and I highly recommend it to any survival horror fan. And then the weirdest of them all, in my opinion, is Gregory Horror Show. This is based on a Japanese cartoon of the same name, and this game visually is awesome. So I haven't played this game, but what I've seen of the footage and the gameplay online, this game looks awesome from a visual aspect. Still retains the cartoonish, cel-shading look, and it still retains that anime look, so definitely one I need to jump on ASAP. And interestingly, this only came out in the PAL and the Japanese region. It never got released in the American regions, so it is actually quite valuable and quite rare. This game goes for around £80 at CEX. I picked up my copy from the Commentary Cash Generators a couple of weeks ago for about £70, so not the cheapest, but really cool and looks really unique. And the thing that really intrigues me about this game, while it definitely isn't the scariest game on this list, it kind of has that Luigi's Mansion vibe. I just love the cartoonish anime look, and I just love the wacky vibes about this game. Yeah, definitely a really intriguing game, so check it out if you're interested. But here's a crazy thing, right, and this might be controversial to say, I don't know, but this is just my opinion. Despite all of those amazing Resident Evil games we got, I don't even think that's the best franchise in terms of survival horror on the PlayStation 2. My favourite on the PlayStation 2 is, without doubt, hands down, Silent Hill. I just love these games, man. And the reason I prefer Silent Hill over Resident Evil, it just comes down to the pure atmosphere, the storytelling, the psychological horror, and in my opinion, it just beats Resident Evil. I just love how you play as a normal Joe Bloggs. You aren't Leon Kennedy roundhouse kicking the last Plagueis, or Chris Redfield punching a boulder. You're just some normal guy going through life and dealing with trauma and grief. And my love for the Silent Hill franchise started off in 2024 with the Silent Hill 2 remake. It's a great game, an absolute masterpiece, and this is where this franchise kicked off with a massive bang in 2001 on the PlayStation 2. We obviously got the OG release of Silent Hill 2, which for a lot of people, including myself, is their favourite game within the entire franchise. Like I said, I played the remake last year and it shook me to my core, man. Just what a game, just wow. The emotional storytelling, so many twists and turns, just classical survival horror with brain-racking puzzles, just an unreal game, man. And the cool thing about Silent Hill 2 on the PlayStation 2, it got released in this cool cardboard sleeve. I don't know why it got released in that format. Someone let me know down below in the comments. I think we only got the director's cut, which is a platinum version in a standard PlayStation 2 case. Maybe one day I'll add it to the collection, I don't know. I don't like platinums, but yeah, just really interesting and a fascinating release for sure. From there, we got Silent Hill 3, which is also beloved and one of the most violent video games ever released, and links back to Silent Hill 1 on the original PlayStation 1, which is cool. I don't know much about Silent Hill 4, The Room, so I can't comment much about that one. But then things got weird and we got ports of Silent Hill games from other consoles. We got Silent Hill Origins, which was a PSP game, and Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which was a Wii game. These games in Origins and Shattered Memories aren't meant to be that good on the PlayStation 2. I do believe from reading online that people recommend playing the PSP version and the Wii version. Those games were just built for those systems, but I think it's really cool that we got these ports on the PlayStation 2, and fascinating, these games are actually the most expensive games in the Silent Hill franchise, I do believe. So Origins goes for around £160, and Shattered Memories, if you get the BBFC rating, which is the one that is the most desirable, that goes for something crazy like £400. I paid £230 for a Dutch copy, which is a European version. I'm super happy with that game. I'm super happy to have it in the collection. I don't care if it's got Dutch on the back of the copy. I don't care if the manual's in Dutch. I'm just so happy to have that in my collection, man. There's also the Silent Hill collection, which includes Silent Hill 2, 3 and 4 with all of their manuals. That one is very expensive and one that I still need to add to the collection. So I love Silent Hill. I recommend it to anyone who loves survival horror, but the only issue and the only thing that's like, oh man, it kind of holds me back from recommending it to people, it's so expensive. All these games are upwards of £50, £60, the most expensive one being Shattered Memories. And what you're seeing now is over £600 worth of games on the PlayStation 2. I love the Silent Hill franchise. I'm so happy to have them in my collection, but yeah, it's not a cheap franchise to jump into, so it's not the most accessible, but if you can find a way to play it, if you can find a way to add them to your collection, then I wholeheartedly recommend them, man. If you can't quite stretch to picking up the physical copies, no matter how you play them, original hardware, ports, remakes, emulation, I don't care. The Silent Hill franchise is a must play in my opinion. It's so unique, it's so haunting, and honestly, it's survival horror at its finest. So from Silent Hill, it makes sense to jump to the Forbidden Siren franchise, which was actually worked on by quite a few people who left Konami after working on the first Silent Hill game on the PlayStation 1. Of course, being from the guys that made a Silent Hill on the original PlayStation 1, you know it's going to be weird, atmospheric and psychological. And the unique thing about the Forbidden Siren series is a sight jacking mechanic where you literally see through the eyes of enemies to plan your movement. It's just a cool concept that no other horror game really pulled off. And the first game is notoriously brutally difficult and it is extremely Japanese in tone. And this kind of led it to never becoming mainstream, but it has definitely got a hardcore cult following. I haven't played the OG PlayStation 2 games. I've only played the PlayStation 3 Siren, which was a remake kind of the first game, but the thing I love about the Forbidden Siren games and something that I've come to appreciate after playing Silent Hill F on the PlayStation 5 is definitely the Japanese setting. I don't know, there's just something more scary and more weird about Japanese horror. I love The Grudge, which is a creepy Japanese film that came out back in 2004. I don't know, there's just something more scary and more creepy about Japanese horror. Then we got Forbidden Siren 2, which a lot of people say is the best one out of the two. It tightened up the gameplay, had better characters, and is meant to be an overall much better game than the first one. Like I said, I've only played some of Siren, Blood Curse on the PlayStation 3, which was a remake of sorts of the first one released on the PlayStation 2, and that one is so scary, so I can't wait to check out the PlayStation 2 ones. Again, this is going to be a common theme throughout this video. The only downside, these games are really expensive, so Forbidden Siren goes for around £80, and then Forbidden Siren 2 is like double. I think I paid £160 for my copy 6-7 months ago. So again, not the most of accessible franchises, but really unique, really scary, really creepy. And if you love Silent Hill, if you love graphic, violent, visceral survival horror games, then yeah, you can't look much further than the Forbidden Siren games. Again, in my opinion, a must own. And these games are Sony PlayStation exclusive, so if you love collecting for the PlayStation consoles, then a cool bit of history to have in your collection for sure. Now, if you want to talk about true survival horror, no guns, no punches, just you and a camera, then Project Zero, or Fatal Frame as it's known elsewhere, is just true peak survival horror. Just like Clock Tower 3 and Haunting Grounds, these are some of the first games where you play as someone who is completely helpless. You can't fight back, it's just you and your camera against some creepy ghosts. You literally fight ghosts by taking pictures of them, and the closer they get, the more damage you do, which also means the scarier it gets. This year, I've added all 3 PlayStation 2 games to my collection in the Project Zero franchise. We got 1, 2 Crimson Butterfly, and 3 Tormented Souls, and again, another really expensive franchise to collect for. Project Zero 1 cost me around £60, Project Zero 2 cost me around £100, then Project Zero 3 cost me about £170, so what's that? £350 maybe? Yeah, really expensive. And again, common theme in this video, these horror games on the PlayStation 2 are going to cost you, so yeah, you need to get yourself some sweet vouchers. And if you are intrigued about these games, then you can check them out on cheaper consoles like the OG Xbox or the Wii. So if you do want something a bit different, a bit unique, but you don't want to pony up for the PlayStation 2 versions, then check them out on those consoles. Okay, Next set of games, we're stepping into something controversial, something very disturbing, something very dark, and yeah, these games are just downright nasty, man, and that's Manhunt. Rockstar went full dark with this one, giving us a stealth horror game where you're forced to perform brutal executions while being haunted for sport. It's gritty, grim, and honestly, still feels so uncomfortable to play, and that's exactly why it's brilliant. These games were so brutal and so disturbing that they actually got banned in several countries. These games, man, are so dark, so disturbing, but I just love them, man. I just love Manhunt. Obviously, starting off with the iconic Manhunt 1, which is still relatively affordable at £20, which just blows my mind. I would have thought that this game being so controversial and having such a tainted history would have been way more expensive, but yeah, £20, really, really affordable. And it's probably the one out of the two that people prefer. And then we got Manhunt 2, I believe that came out 2007. I've only played the first one. That one was, oh yeah, that one is grim, but Manhunt 2 is actually the one that got banned in several countries, including here in the UK, which is quite rare. We're quite, yeah, whatever, don't really bother us, but yeah, for a game to get banned in the UK, you know it has to be nasty. And this game was even worse, but it actually got cut and censored. So the uncut version, which is really hard to find physically and I believe can only be played for the PC, that game must have been so bad and so horrific. And the version we got on the PlayStation 2 was actually a censored version. I've seen the cut content, you can find it quite easy on YouTube, and oh yeah, some of those are nasty, man. Like, if you got a strong stomach, then check them out, I guess. But yeah, I can see why it got banned and I can see why it got censored. Like, even the censored version, for what I've seen online, like I said, I haven't played it, it is quite nasty, but oh yeah, there's some nasty executions, man, in the uncut footage. It is grim, man. While the first one is really affordable at £20, the second one is very expensive, going for around £110. But if you do want to pick up this nasty game, you can pick it up on the Wii for a lot cheaper. This must be the most un-Nintendo game ever released, man. But that's what I really love about the Manhunt series. I mean, I'm not some psychotic, crazy person who loves executing people, but there's just something alluring about it, something weird and mystical about a game that would definitely never come out in 2025. And I just really enjoy playing the stealth gameplay. I just love brutally executing people. I just loved how disturbing, how gruesome it was. Like I said, it's a game that would never come out in today's society. And if you want something intense, messed up, and just nasty, Manhunt is essential to any PlayStation 2 survival horror collection. Now, we need to talk about some obscure games, if you pardon the pun. I want to talk about Obscure 1 and Obscure 2. This is vintage B-tier movie masterpiece, similar to Buffy the Vampire, Twilight, those guilty pleasures that you shouldn't love, but they hold so much charm. You play as a group of high school students trapped in their school overnight while everyone starts mutating into monsters. The best part about Obscure is that it's one of the only survival horror games with local couch co-op on the PlayStation 2. You could play split screen with a friend, solving puzzles, conserving ammo, and screaming together when something jumps out the vents. That alone makes it really legendary. Now look, this definitely isn't the best game on this list, not by a long shot. The combat is janky, the voice acting is very 2000s, like I said, cheesy, but has a lot of soul and a lot of charm to it, in my opinion. Such a unique take on the genre, and honestly, it deserved way more love than it got. And again, with it being very obscure, yeah, pardon the pun, it is a very obscure game to find out in the wild. Very expensive. The first one goes for around £70. The second one is like double that, goes for £160. But if you want something, you know, a guilty pleasure, if you love seeing teen slasher movies, you know, Friday the 13th, Halloween, those kind of films, then I would highly recommend Obscure 1 and 2, and especially if you love playing co-op couch games with your friends, man. Like I said, a really, really unique game. Now, a lot of these games I've gone through, pretty much all of the games I've gone through are upwards of £50–60, which is cool, I guess, from a collector's point of view, but I don't collect for value, I don't care about value. So the next few games I want to go through, I want to recommend some lower budget games, some, you know, cheap bangers that you can pick up on a budget. And the first game I want to start with is a recent pickup, The Thing, based on the 1982 John Carpenter film, and it actually acts like a sequel to the movie. And it got some cool innovative mechanics like a trust system, where if you haven't seen the film, you have no idea who The Thing may have replicated. And yes, based on everyone's comments on the last video, like pretty much every other comment on my previous pickups hunting video where I picked up The Thing on the PlayStation 2, everyone was saying, what's The Thing? What's The Thing? Have you watched The Thing? You need to watch The Thing. And yes, yes, yes. This past weekend, I finally watched The Thing, and I do get it now, man. What a film. Just very much a product of its time. It does show its age in quite a lot of the instances, like the CGI is very plasticky. There's a lot of Fade into Black, which was very, you know, 80s and very much a product of its time. But what a film, man, just great. I just love the build up, the tension. I just love how it isn't, you know, in your face scary all the time. Obviously the GOAT, Kurt Russell, just what a guy, man, what an actor. You know, my partner was like, oh, he's quite nice. And I was like, yeah. He's got his, you know, luscious locks and his big, thick beard. Just, it's a really cool film, man. I can see why a lot of you guys recommended it. So a big shout out to all of you, man. And for me, I definitely hold it in the same regard as Alien, Terminator and Predator, some of the best films ever released during the early 80s. Just a brilliant film, man. Just everything about it, just 10 out of 10, masterpiece. Great cinematography, tense music, and an awesome ending, very ambiguous, just a badass film, man. Check it out if you haven't watched it, and then play the game. For just £8, it's the cheapest game on this list, and if it's half as good as the film, this game is definitely going to be a must play. I mentioned these on my previous video as well, but we also got the Suffering 1 and 2, some of the most brutal and violent horror games ever released on the PlayStation 2. Prison setting, supernatural monsters, moral choices, got everything that makes a survival horror game great and scary. Both of these games go for around £15–20. I've only got the Suffering 1 in my collection, so I need to get onto the second one ASAP. And the biggest thing that draws me in about the Suffering is definitely the grotesque, nasty looking monster designs. Like I mentioned on my previous video, very similar to Silent Hill, so if it's half as good as Silent Hill, then I'm going to be in for a great time, man. And the last game I want to shout out, which is very budget friendly, is Cold Fear. This is basically Resident Evil on a boat before Resident Evil got released. This game has got zombies and that classic Resident Evil over-the-shoulder action and shooting. This game got massively overshadowed by the release of Resident Evil 4, coming out about 3 months before Resident Evil 4, so it never really got its time to shine. But now, on today's video, I'm giving it its time in the spotlight to shine. Again, really affordable, goes for about £20, so not going to break the bank. And like I said, if you love Resident Evil 4, then definitely check this out, man. This is definitely high on my backlog of survival horror games, but I've got a lot of games to get through this Halloween. So yeah, hopefully you guys have got some cool options if you don't want to stretch to the hundreds of pounds, which I don't blame you, because some of the games on this list are ridiculously expensive. And finally, in typical Collector's Quest fashion, where I talk about a JRPG in pretty much every video, I want to talk about one of the most underrated horror-themed JRPG franchises ever made, Shadow Hearts. I remember picking this game up for 25p at a car boot about 3 years ago, man, and yeah, what a bargain, right? This game, the first one goes for around £80, so again, very expensive, but typical for this video, right? But the thing that looks really cool about Shadow Hearts, and the most unique thing, is a dark, gritty, Victorian vampire vibe, and it's got a really similar atmosphere and vibe to games like Parasite Eve, Kadelka, these hybrid RPGs with horror elements and very unique combat. Again, like I said, very expensive at £80, but one I highly recommend if you're in for a different JRPG experience. We also got Shadow Hearts Covenant 2 and From the New World, which I don't hear as many positive things about when compared to the first one. I think they walk away from the dark horror vibes, and that probably explains why they are quite a bit cheaper than the first game. The second one goes for around £40 and New World goes for about £20. But if you love JRPGs like me, if you love horror, then you need to have these games in your collection. Very different and very cool, man. And there you have it, guys, all of my survival horror games on the PlayStation 2. I'm so proud at how this part of my PlayStation 2 collection has grown over the past year. I just love collecting and playing survival horror games. They're so rare and so niche, and I love hunting for them out in the wild. They're just so uncommon, and when you finally find one out in the wild, like when I found Shattered Memories at a CEX in Northfield, it's just such a euphoric moment. You're just like, oh my god, these games are so rare. They're very rarely in stock at CEX, and to find one out in the wild is just such a sweet moment, man. Of course, I am still missing some of the heavy hitters like Kuon, Michigan Report from Hell, and Roll of the Rose, but one day I will definitely add those games to the collection. I just need to be very patient, as they are very rare and very, very expensive, costing a combined price of around £1,400. Ouch, man, my wallet needs to be prepared. But now I want to hear from you guys. What are your favourite survival horror games on the PlayStation 2? Have you been collecting survival horror on the PlayStation 2? And what do you think of my survival horror collection on the PlayStation 2? What are some of the glaring omissions in my collection? Sound off in the comments down below. And while you're down there in the comments, smash the like button and subscribe to the Collector's Quest channel for more game hunts, CX adventures, and everything around video game collecting. And as always, good luck on your game hunts and collecting adventures. Take it easy, YouTube, and I'll catch you in the next one.